Friends, I could not help myself but to pick up the new Viseart, well, not new, but new to me, Paris Matte's Attendu palette. When this released, I think last year, I can't recall if it was late last year or early this year, it sold out quickly. Once it restocked, I bought it, but now I see that it's 30% off. I was afraid that it will sell out again and I didn't know when it will return, so that's why I picked it up, but it is an all matte palette. And who are all matte palettes for? Well, I'll be happy to discuss because I think it is an interesting concept, right? Because I am a lover of mixed textured palettes where you have mattes, shimmers, satins, sparkly arclies, all in one palette, and it makes it easy to layer those textures to create dimension on the eyes. But I also see the value of having a solid all matte palette, and especially one developed by Viseart. If you don't know or are not familiar with the brand, they are well known for their matte formula that might not swatch to one's discerning eye, but the way these mattes apply completely obliterates whatever impressions one made from a dry swatch on the arm. They're blurring, they're soft, they're just insanely easy to blend, and the color science is impeccable, where no matter what mixture of colors or how you blend and layer on the eyes, it will not turn out muddy, because the way Viseart formulates their textures and colors makes it ridiculously easy for any eyeshadow beginner to have an elegantly blended eye, especially with their mattes. So I decided to grab it because I thought these shades were beautifully soft. And just to read also from the website to get an idea, Paris Matte's Attendu from Viseart Pro are prelude to the splendor of the season. Pirouette into soft romantic hues inspired by the artistry of Parisian ballet. I was excited to see that the shade names are ballet names because I'm like, I could pronounce these. I know what's up. Each shade moves seamlessly with captivating performance. 12 sumptuous matte hues, each a graceful brush stroke of supreme saturation, come together in a seamless dance of depth and nuance. And thank you, Viseart, for providing the shade descriptions. I'll run them down as I swatch on the arm. And if you're not familiar with the Viz Pro format, it has a hinge here where you can lower the palette into the groove and it stands upright on any surface you place it on. Some people didn't like the fact that the new Viz Pro format does not have a mirror, but others didn't use the mirror anyway in their original tri-fold format, so it really all depends on you and if you use the mirror or not in the original palette design. Originally retailed for $44, but is now on sale for $30.80 if you want to go get it. 36 months suggested shelf life. Thank you, Viseart, and it is made in the USA. First, we have Aurora, also known as Sleeping Beauty, and white with a whisper of peach. We have Point, the toe shoes, if you will, a cool light beige. I still have my Point shoes, which encourages me to find like a super intro beginner class where you got both hands on the bar and you just do your foot exercises in the Point shoes. I need that. Tulle, the material used to make the tutus a light peachy pink. Arabesque is where the leg is extended behind you in that beautiful line, but also a soft light pink purple. I'm swatching across, but if you can see, the shades are arranged in their corresponding undertones. You have like the more lilac column here, more beige, more mauve, and I guess more peachy. Next, we have Pirouette, a type of turn in ballet, but this is a light creamy beige with soft pink undertones. I was the worst with pirouettes. I still try to practice them from time to time because of the muscle I developed and with my new strength because I have stronger calves from the running and just doing more things. But I gotta try double or maybe triple. Plie, dusty mauve, soft and cool. Also what I consider to be another type of squat variation, but just done with the heels off the floor, and also prepares you for small and larger jumps later in class. And it is a standard exercise in any ballet class that you see or take. Adagio, buff nude with a hint of lavender. And it also is the part of class. I believe it was the first part when after you complete bar, you go to the center of the floor and you do the slow moving extensions with the slow port de bras. That was my favorite part of class because I was terrible at jumping. Next we have relevé, which is when you spring to the ball of your foot and lift the heel off the floor. It's like a heel raise from the plie position, but this is a dusty purple gray with a cool twilight tone. That's pretty. I like that dustiness to the undertone. Here we have ballet, which is the art form these colors are from, and we have a cool toned light taupe. Next we have soutenu. I believe that's the one where you go into the leg crossover. It's another type of turn in ballet. This is a caramel warm tan brown. Interesting how they would classify this as a caramel. Dare I say, this is more like a mauve caramel to me. Fouetté, muted beige taupe, but it also is another type of turn in ballet where you whip the leg around and connect it to your standing leg. You go wah, wah. And lastly, we have tendu. Probably like the second exercise at bar when you work on your point extension. And this is a deep espresso brown. So here's all the shades from Paris Mattes. I cannot wait to now demonstrate these colors, and I will try to stick to an all matte look. I look a little warm on the complexion because I just finished filming my Fude Bobo video using her beautiful brushes, and I chose some warm shades to place on the cheeks. But you know, it's okay. We're gonna figure it out. With that said, let's pull you in a little closer and we'll start this demonstration. That is lash glue. Prepping the lids with Suku's eye primer. There's just dabbity dab on both eyes. What should we start with? Well, we could go just column by column if that's easy for you to navigate, meaning we can start at the top and follow through with the colors underneath. But you could mix and match however you want. I think it's great, however, that Viseart arranged their shades so that they kind of hold your hand in trying to decide what shadows to pair with what. But if you are an eyeshadow master, you could go however you want to go. So let's start on this side with a light serving of this beige, and I'll just tap that onto the brow bone, and you can see that offers a beautiful highlight effect as well as on the inner corner. So you don't necessarily have to rely on a champagne shade or what have you to create a highlight effect on the inner corner. You can very much use a matte shade that's lighter in color to bring the inner corner forward if you like. Now to create a little bit of shading, I'll choose this taupe color, which probably on me is not going to offer the most shadowing, but I think that's good enough to create some distinction here through my crease. And again, the way these mattes apply, it's just insane. And now we can follow up with the peachy shade and just tap that on the center of the lid for a more brightening effect. And I could follow through with tendu on the lash line to get a little more intensity, a little more smoke. But why don't we head over to the next column? And this shade is not going to be as brightening as the light beige that we first started off on side number 1. This will probably serve more as like a soft contour shade. So I'm just placing that actually on the inner part of the eye because I want to reserve that other medium shade for this part of my crease. And you can see what that does. It's more like it's this color here. It almost looks like a light rose, but this shade has more of like a mauve tone to it. And what I'll use here on the crease as well as on the outer lid. And now taking the last shade, that's probably going to serve more as like a lid moment. So I'll cover the entire lid with that shade, and it's going to give, again, a soft look to the lid. If I wanted to follow up with tendu, I could. And why don't I do just that for the sake of demonstration? I'll take tendu here, that espresso brown, and can tap it right here on the lash line. And I don't have to extend beyond the lash point. You could in order to create a soft wing tip, but I don't think it's necessary. And tendu is beautiful. It lays down well, it looks dark on the lash line and creates great shadowing. And this eye is just like your soft mauve eye, so it's not going to have a pronounced effect like what you're going to get from Midsummer. What I could probably do is a little more mixing and matching. I could probably invite a little bit of tendu here, but just lightly on the outer lid. So we could create a little bit of smoke, but not too much. Just build that gradient up. I started on the lash line just so that I can lift the color up and it has somewhere to go, and create that smoky cuff, if you will, around the lid, and then gently take it here on the lower part of my lash line. All right, let's apply some lashes and I'll be right back. Here are the final looks of our first round, and just to say, what do I think about matte and who do I think a matte palette can be for? I think if you enjoy the matte texture for its blurring and diffusing capabilities on your lids, then this definitely will be for you. And also, there are people out there who don't like the sparkly arcly shades. I know, tough to believe, where they just want something more simple. Definitely there's an elegance to an all matte look that just can't be explained until you actually apply all mattes on your eyes and you can see the effect that it has. Definitely super 90s, but also just beautifully classy, and how you could get away with a smoky eye because of the all matte texture. It doesn't overwhelm the entire look. And even though tendu is quite dark in pan, it diffuses to be a little bit softer on the application, and I think quite wearable because of that. We have it here across the lash line, which, my goodness, the way it just kind of floated on my lash line. I know what I use a Koido brush, so that could be it too, but it just fell into the wing shape easily. And I think it's a great step to take if you wanted to create that more volume on the base. I have lashes on, but if you just wanted to go with mascara, having a dark shadow across the lash line gives your lashes a little bit of boost at the base and naturally creates that look of volume because the lash base is thicker. And having the lighter tones on the lid as well as in the inner corner, if you don't want it to use like a champagne, I didn't apply inner corner shade here, but I could with this one. Number 3, let's scroll up. Tool is the light peachy pink. So if I took a small brush here, maybe we can use the light pink as an inner corner highlight. And I think that's lovely. It's nice to have a light color pastel matte for highlighting purposes because it doesn't draw too much attention, but just the right amount if you don't, again, want any sparkle or shine on your eyes. And the texture for Viseart mattes, I just think, are insanely forgiving on different lid types. And I understand one who just uses mattes for that reason. If they feel like these more foiled metallic formulas accentuate their texture as much as they like it and they enjoy the shine, they enjoy the razzle dazzle, once they apply those formulas on the lids look crinkly and it doesn't have that same reflective effect like they see on a swatch when placed on the eyes. But when you go all matte just saves the day. It's a little more secure. It diffuses your lid texture a bit because there's no shine or reflectivity, so it naturally softens and blurs the eyes. But again, there's just like a glamorous elegance to the look with all mattes that just can be achieved with an all matte look. And sometimes nice to entirely commit to an all matte eye and not invite any type of shine to the look. It's a lot of fun. So let's continue with the next 2 columns and we can discuss how you can integrate other eye products and use your matte palette as supplementary. Continuing with round 2, and we'll begin with the 3rd column down here. I demonstrated how the light pink can serve as a highlight color, but I'll also place it, I'm looking for my brush. I'll also place it on the brow bone with this demo. It's not as bright as the first ivory shade that we applied on demo number 1, but it does have a soft highlight effect on the brow. I could follow up with that same shade on the inner corner. Oops, I forgot to put eye primer on. Judging from how light this looks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is the Buff Nude with a hint of lavender. Buff Nude is probably going to be more appropriate for a lid shade on my skin tone, where I could just lightly toss it here, right under the ballet shade. And I think that's pretty. It brings the lid somewhat forward, but it's not going to be overly brightening, right? As if I were to go in with these two mattes here. Now we could follow up with this taupe, and I'll bring it through the crease, and that's going to have more of a distinct shadow effect on my skin tone. I could also bring a little bit here on the outer lid, just like a bracket that lighter shade that we applied, and a little bit here under the lash line. I like this because it's taupe, but it's not super gray taupe. It sits here. Let me revisit the undertone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a muted beige taupe. So with the beige in there, I feel that doesn't make it appear as gray. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? But I could also follow up with Tendu just on the lash line again. But let's go in with the last column. And now we have this beautiful lilac that I am definitely applying on the entire lid. Because to have this lilac on the lid in this way, oof, I think so pretty. And then we could follow up with that darker lavender shade that's going to provide a little bit of shading, the middle one here. I'll place it on the outer lid just to start building. Oh, that definitely delivers the smoke for sure. I'm just whipping it lightly here on the outer lid, and why not? Let's take advantage of the arrowhead shape to nudge it on the inner part of the lid. And then I'll take the tip of the brush to connect those together. Oh, that's pretty. I like that a lot. This is a pretty lilac guy. I'm just following up with that darker purple. Is this purple? Not really. Shade number 8 is the dusty purple gray. So technically it is, but it is very much dusty. But I like the dusty a lot. I want to follow up with Tendu, but I don't want to cover what we did here with the dusty purple. So perhaps on this eye, I'll do the soft wing tip. And on this side, we could plop on a little more smoke than what we did in round number 1. I'll use the same small dome brush because I think this is a great shape and size to carefully build color here on the outer lid without losing control of the application. Because creating a soft bracket of color, I think helpful with a softer brush, but that will still move the powder well across the eyes. I know this isn't a black shadow, it's a black brown, right? But one of the best formulated darker shadow mattes that I've ever used, where it doesn't look splotchy. You know how super dark black sometimes kind of grab the skin, you kind of need to maneuver it a little more than other like lighter brown, or not even lighter brown, but like the medium to deep tone browns. They don't move across the skin well. This, the blurring is insane. I mean, just with a few strokes is there. I'm taking a fluffy brush just to finish the edges of that application because I want to take it out a little bit more. And we could jump around now. Since we saw all the shades in action, this is where I'll introduce one of the lighter pastels. Number 1 specifically, the white with a whisper of peach. I could place that here on the inner corner just to add a little bit of highlight, and I'll create some contrast there. And remember, you can successfully layer these powders where now, since I'm applying it on the lilac, that lighter beige is going to pick up a little bit of lilac, or you can lightly dab to the lilac column and manipulate the color so it's like a lighter lilac for that highlight effect. Taking a little more of ballet. Is it ballet? I forgot. All right, let's apply these lashes and I'll be right back. And here is round 2 with Paris Mattes Attendu. And I enjoy this palette immensely. As you can see, I think the mattes speak for themselves. But to discuss who this palette can be for and how you can use it, you don't necessarily have to create an entire look as I did with all shadows. You can actually consider this palette to be supplementary, much how like you can consider a multi-chrome palette to be supplementary, where you just just take that one Razzle Dazzle shade and it's going to be the spotlight effect or featured texture on your eye look that day. You can use any of these mattes to blur the edges of, let's say, a metallic on or in a one pot shadow. I'm thinking BBB's eye lusters, or even those types of pots from Charlotte Tilbury if she still makes those. If you have any of those one and done eyeshadow formulas, like we all have them in our collection where you just take it in, go and just blur the edges, you can use any of these mattes to enhance the blend of the edges of those formulas so your eye look can appear more complete and finished, a little more professional perhaps. And I think having a little bit of that shading in the crease, especially when accompanying a metallic high foil shine formula on the lid, it just kind of helps the overall look to appear cohesive, where the edges don't appear uneven. Although there are some metallic textures out there, satin or even the foil types of finishes that can blend without a matte. I've spoken about those several times in Pat McGrath palettes, in Natasha Denona palettes, and even Viseart palettes, other ones that I own. Suku also comes to mind. Just having that right amount of shadowing and contouring through the crease, having that light beige on the lid, depending on your skin tone. So some of these might be your highlight color, some of these might be your lid color to cater, and the medium color will be placed through the crease, just again to create that soft shading effect, maybe following up with a liner across the lash line. There's so many possibilities. I'm even thinking relying on, let's say, BBB Satin Kajal liners, one of their either pearl or their sequence formulas. I just whip it on the lid, blend it with my finger, and then follow up with a matte, or go in with the Viseart Paris matte first and then with the liner afterwards. That could be a great eye look too. But there's just like a security about Paris mattes where I know I can create something beautifully glamorous and sophisticated from these textures and tones. And if I wanted, I could just pack one of those one pot shadows that basically go with all the shades in here and maybe a liner, and the possibilities are endless. I could create a number of looks just from that trio alone, and thanks to the fact that we got these mattes. A few comparisons to make, because I'm sure this looks like several of our Viseart palettes that we might already own in our collection. Let's start with the recently released, well, not technically, but recently acquired Lilas palette that originally released last year around November, and side by side is the Paris matte. And so you can see there's an overall similarity in the undertone, soft, lilac, hazy, cool overall in the undertone. Here we have Midsummer. Again, although Midsummer might not have the lilac, it most certainly has the mauve. The Paris Reverie palette, not in the Viz Pro format, this is in the trifold, but similar. Actually, this looks a lot like the Paris matte. I mean, it is called Paris as well. This palette is a little bigger, but it has those similar shades. Like, it has the lilac shade. I think this lilac is not the same. The lilac here is a different name. Matte Endure, not completely the same. And this is the lilac from Paris matte. So Paris matte has a little more purple in there. I'm just going based off the name because usually if Viseart has repeats, they'll use the same name for their shades. This is the Cool Mattes original in the Viz Pro format. So if you have Cool Mattes, you don't need Paris mattes. It's a little more comprehensive. They don't have as many mauve tones in there, right? But you still got that dark brown. It's like more of like a black brown. You got the slate grays, the more medium pale pink, and this more, I guess, muted royal purple. So that's the original. But I also have the Cool Mattes 2. Cool Mattes 2 is arranged more as Paris mattes is. You can see that you have the matching undertones here, and here side by side to Paris mattes. You have more neutrals in Cool Mattes 2. I just think Paris mattes is interesting because they're cool overall, but the mauve and the taupe and the inclusion of lilacs, I think, is an interesting mixture of colors. And for funsies, I have Paris Nudes. These are all satins, but ooh, wouldn't Paris Nudes just go beautifully well with Paris mattes, right? Because basically all the shades here match the mattes in here. And not that you need both, but these would be effortless looks, right? So for instance, if I were to just pick up one of these, by the way, Viseart satins are absolutely gorgeous. So that can go on the lid, right? And now we can pick one of the taupey shades to be paired with that satin, right? You could pair it with that. So however you wanted to go. You don't necessarily need Paris mattes if you have Lilas, if you have Paris Reverie, if you have any of the cool matte palettes. I understand how the curation is appealing. It's seductive for sure, because how they included the taupes but also lilacs and mauves, but the taupes have like a beiginess to them that doesn't make them completely cool tone. It takes a little bit of that gray out, which I feel a little more versatile in a number of skin tones that they can be successful on. That's just my opinion. It is on sale now, so if you were budgeting, waiting for the restock, didn't want to pay full price, I'm just letting you know. Don't jump the gun like I did. But let me know, family, down below if you decided to pick up Paris matte, you're passing on it, you're still thinking about it. And if you made it this far, make sure you like this video by clicking the thumbs up. It helps me tremendously in recommending more videos for you to watch. I would recommend my videos to other beauty enthusiasts like yourself, and consider subscribing because there might be more Viseart palette reviews on the way, whether it be a review video or just a get ready with me or a cocktail video where I hop back into older Viseart palettes and create new looks with them. And if you want to peruse my channel and check out more of my videos, I can see you in this video here, down in the comments for this one, and on here again next time.